Hey, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good too, man. Thank you so much. I know you're a super busy guy and appreciate you coming on and taking some time with me today and us listeners. And one of the themes of the conversations I've been having and some of the messages that our listeners have been sending over is they get inspired or are inspired with the stories that people have had with failures and successes, right? Everyone sees this great thing that's posted with us on social media, pages. It's flooded with them, whether it's food or it's marketing or sports or whatever. But know how hard it is to get to that point to establish, whether it's running your own business or to be able to say, hey, I was able to accomplish something individually or with a team. You have done some great things with Elite Cuisine. You started up, you cook very well. There's some great content you post, on social media about this. You're getting booked left and right, and your food is amazing. I know you're constantly cooking and preparing these great menus and items for a lot of the large clientele, but hasn't always been roses, right? Hasn't always been, easy. And I know you in particular have had a great journey that's full of success, full of challenges. Can you shed some light, to the folks who are, on the fence, who may not be or are not at the level yet that, say of, hey, I'm doing something that I'm want to be passionate, but it's not going to pay where I got to survive. But there's a balance. There's something you went through, a lot of folks went through. I'd love for them to hear about your story on what it took.
Well, it's not all roses. I'll tell you that from the beginning. I mean, actually, it is a passion. And outright, I will tell everybody if it is a passion, then you got to be in it for the long haul. That's number one. Speaking of social media, I'll just say you're going to always see the roses. You're going to see because it's part of marketing. You want to show what looks good, but there is a backstory and there is a lot of hard work to go into anything. And you want to present everything that looks good, but there is a lot of hard work that goes into anything, especially if you're going to be successful. And pretty much there's lessons that go into it. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And, and the passion, it just oozes out of you, and it's really not work if it's something you love to do. What I say is you got to stick with it because, eventually you will get the breakthrough. Technically, this is the 13th month as Elite Cuisine is in business and I'm scaling and I still have a long way to go, but with, good blessings, I'm going the right way. I'm going up. So initially, I start off selling plates. I literally was on the streets, door to door, selling plates, and then my goal was to get into the catering scene, and that's where I am now. And the scaling is going good, and I'm heading in the right direction. So yeah,
Yeah, and and that for what you just shared is you're going door to door selling plates before you started doing the things with event catering or just catering in general, right? And now I don't want people to hear just think that, okay, you're just doing this food and you're just this great chef. You're also talented, in music, right? I've known you for a long time. We played sports together. We've watched each other far, supported the families, and
yes.
you have had successes and also challenges, in a lot of different things that you've, obviously dabbled into. And now with what you're doing here, and now, like you said, you're 13th, 14th month in with Elite Cuisine, there's things that, business owners or people don't understand about the struggle, right? Can you share some of those challenges, reflecting back that, folks might be going through now, especially as a small business owner in the beginning?
Yeah, so let's go back a little bit. So I come from an artistic family. So we have musicians, we have artists, athletes. So that's just my background in general. So I have a lot of passions, as you know. But yeah, so like you're going to hear a lot of no's, when you're trying to start a project, you're trying to start a new venture, you're going to hear a lot of no's. And you just have to stick with it and you have to fight through those. And you just have to it's pretty much if your passion is there, you just got to have that driving force. And a lot of my backbone comes from sports, because when I have a big event coming up, I literally treat it like game day. And that's what I tell my kids when they work with me because my catering business is a family business, so I hire my children as well. And I literally treat it like a game day. I get pumped up, I get motivated, and my mindset goes back to practice. It goes back to a game. And then that's kind of my driving force. And yeah, and you put that smile on, when you get in front of your clients and you always have to be professional. just in any other venture, in any other company, just like even in what you do. So you have those aspects as well, but at the end of the day you just go back to your roots and you go back to your hardworking mentality, and it all work itself out. But like I said, you can't let those no's deter you, and you just have to stick with it. And like I said, I'm still have those days, but you just got to get up and keep going.
And and that's, I love what you said about the game day, because the game day mentality is, there's a process to it, right? There's a flow, there's a routine, right? That we know about. Like, hey, I'm gonna go prep this. It's like playing a game, a sport, whatever it is. Like, I'm gonna do this first thing in the morning. I gotta eat the same thing. I gotta stretch the same way. I gotta warm up the same way. I don't want anything get in my way. But in business and in life, sometimes routines, we get knocked off of it, right? So it's the ability to evolve and adjust. And we've all had to do it, you and I and others. And, a lot of the things that I'll share this, right? Routines are good, right? We're building catalysts, something always continuing to say that if your routine gets broken, if, for example, you're wanting to say, hey, at 10 a.m., I'm going to go and prep before my 12 o'clock meeting or 12 o'clock catering gig or whatever it is, but then something gets a wrench gets thrown into it. It's not time to panic. It's not time to fold. There's a backup. There's a plan. There's a way to kind of things that you're already preparing. I know you're like that. I am like that. Others are like that. Some may not be aware of it, but it's not putting the proverbial all our eggs in one basket, right? We're kind of just preparing to make sure that we have a backup plan, right? And that's
Yes,
part of
absolutely.
overcoming challenges that you've just talked about, that you had to go through. Like you said, you're still scaling. You're building the clientele. You're figuring out, okay, how do I get past one no, 10 no's, 5 no's, all the way to getting multiple or hundreds of yeses, right? And people that are doing it, and having people prepare, and you prepare mainly for game days. And I think the mindset, right, Jay, is understanding what you have to do, because a lot of people don't understand too. Like, it's not just, okay, we're comfortable doing this and having the backing, but it's survival, right? If you're passionate, but also you're doing something that's informed, right? You're not just going out there, oh, I love cooking, I want to cook this great food, whatever it is, and whoever it is you're catering to, but you're also making an informed decision and an informed business decision on what you're going to create, how you're going to handle the clients, right? A lot of people just kind of just throw stuff out there to see what sticks to the wall. And to me, one thing I think that would be interesting is your method. Of course, there's no, restaurant. I'm not asking you to give up your secret recipes, but your method with managing the clientele, because they're diverse, and the ones that are demanding, how you adapt to that. Because as you're scaling, as you're growing your business, as you're going through, finding business, finding help, what are the things that you're going through, and how are you overcoming those challenges in relation to that?
Yeah, so one thing is key, because passion, obviously it's self-explanatory, but one thing is key, and I've also had to learn this along the way, is preparation. And you did mention that. That is one important key element. So what I do in my line of work, a lot of the major work is done way before the event even starts. I normally start my catering event 2 to 3 days before the actual day of. I normally start prepping. If I have an event on Saturday, the shopping is done maybe 4 to 5 days before that day. I normally start cooking 2 to 3 days before. Obviously, there's certain items that cannot be done until the day of, just because certain things have to be fresh and done. But there's other things, such as there's certain like proteins that can be cooked the day before and rehydrated the next day, because you just have to work smarter, not harder, So there's just things like that. And I had to learn that as well. It's a process. So there's a lot of things you lay them out, and you have to be very, very organized, because the longer you're in this line of work, the events get bigger and bigger. And then another key element is too, you build a team. And I seen that in one of your last videos. You actually discussed that with one of your other interviews. And that actually applies to me myself in the line of work that I do. So I try to surround myself with people that actually I find their strengths, and then I assign them to these duties. So then that way everybody has their duty, and they can, drill down what they have to do in their assignments. And as me as the leader, I have to make sure everybody is on point, and then everybody's aligned, and then everything is executed the way it needs to be done.
Yeah. And what I love, and what's been the constant theme of us talking here, is the resilience, right? You're very resilient, right? You you have thick skin, as most people need to have. A lot of people tend to be sensitive. They take the things personal. You don't make emotional decisions. Not saying you hadn't before, but you have to take the emotion out. And similar to what you said about, hey, it is about the team as you're scaling. You can't just work with people or bring people on that are just along for the ride, as we've talked about, right? You want people that are going to carry their weight and make their roles very specific and clear, and you measure, right? Because you're not just paying people to show up and people just to kind of, hey, I just want to just scrape it here and make the money. But you're also, what I heard is the personal growth, right? You're growing. You're overcoming these barriers, right? And to me, you also have that support system that you mentioned earlier where, hey, there is some family support as far as them going in, hey, it's game day, kids, whatnot, they're going to come in and do this because they also are enjoying the passions of what you're doing. But there's also accountability. What I heard you say was you do some self-reflecting, right? And you're accounting for this, and most importantly, the responsibility of ownership. A lot of people don't
Absolutely.
understand how hard that is. Whatever it is, doesn't matter if it's catering, food, manufacturing, tech, whatever, being able to be a leader that you said earlier is very difficult. A lot of people think they could do it, but they don't know until they get there. Like some people will fold like, oh God, this is stressful. I can't talk. And I'm just gonna, go back to my ways of just being as an individual, or in the corporate word, individual contributor, right? But if
Yes.
you're a leader or an owner, you can't act that way. You got to show leadership and guidance, right? Otherwise, why are you there, especially as a leader or as someone that is going to help drive the business, the project, and the success matters on how the effort is put on there. It's not just being there and existing, right? And being present, but it's also driving it, right?
Yes. And also allow even the people under you, also allow them to lead in their own right. Assign them a duty in a project and allow them to take ownership of that too, so they can feel empowered themselves. And then they'll also, that allows them to actually want to work harder for you. So then it's just a domino effect. And as a whole, it'll make your company grow even further.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, one of the things that I was always interested, I wanted to ask you, right, is now here you are, right? You're scaling, you're growing the business, you've gotten some great feedback. What is some words of wisdom, right, that you want to tell folks that are aspiring and they may be going through tough times? They may say like, oh gosh, I don't want to go through and spend the time or invest the little money I have to start this thing or start whatever business they want to go through. But, if you want to win the lottery, you got to buy the lottery ticket, right? So here, if you want to start a business, you're going to have to spend the money. What would you, in your situation right now, with what you've learned so far and reflecting back, tell the folks that are wanting to start their own thing and what to do?
Simply, it's pretty much like this. You just have to be willing to take that leap of faith in yourself and invest in yourself. That means you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to come out of your own fear, because a lot of people, it's just that fear of the unknown. And I've had it. I'm sure at one point you may have had it, and that's what's holding a lot of people back. And then if they could just take that one step, they don't know until you do it, and then the world is out there for you. And then that's pretty much all I have to say about that, because once you get over that hump, man, the world is actually yours. It's right there for the taking. So
And I love that. And in closing with our listeners and with the audience, guys, don't have fear. That's internal. It is scary when you're doing things you're not uncomfortable with. I always say challenge yourself. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, right? Be great. I'm not going to say fail forward or
absolutely.
fall forward, but I'm saying try it. You just don't know. Don't have a regret. Do it while you can, because later, who knows if you'll have a later, who knows, your situation may be different, but don't have fears on doing it. It just may never have that, and be passionate about it. Right.
Absolutely.
Some of the things that you've heard today, right now is going after, there's challenges and whatnot, but guys, the message here is your situation, but you are in charge of it. Have fears. It is scary, but don't you think right now that your future self is looking at you right now and saying, can you believe you just thought like this before? And then when you're looking back into, like, oh my gosh, that was me. So in closing, guys, again, we're here. Send us a message. Jermaine will be joining in these, podcasts and these, these interviews and these things, and we'll bring other people on. But, our mission is to make sure you guys have, the wisdom of knowledge, wisdom to overcome, wealth of knowledge, and winning those inner battles. And some of those battles are fear. So, again, we want to thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like and follow and send us messages. And Jermaine, thank you so much again, and have a good evening,
Absolutely.
guys. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure.